Well, hello. I'm Randall Carlson, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Squaring the Circle, where we talk about interesting subjects and talk with interesting people. And I'm hoping that the guest we have in the studio today will prove to be one of those interesting people. And in fact, I'm very confident that that is going to be the case. So I would like to welcome Flournoy Holmes.
Thank you, Randall.
I'm so glad you agreed to drop in.
I'm glad you paid me to come over here and do this.
Well, I mean, it's going to take me several months to recoup, but it's worth it.
So hopefully.
It'll definitely, well, let me put it this way. You better make it worth it.
I'll try.
Okay. As long as you give it your best. That's all I'm counting on. Flournoy is, I would say you're quite a well-renowned artist. I mean, I heard of you before we ever met.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what context, but yeah, I mean, your name was around. And, I got here in town in 74, and by that time, you'd already made a name for yourself.
Okay.
And I was hanging out and going to a lot of rock concerts and regularly went to Alex Cooley's Electric Ballroom. That was one of the big venues, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the other ones here? Oh, by the way, we're in Atlanta. We're talking about Atlanta, Georgia here. I think you and I actually crossed paths for the first time probably in the early 80s sometime. I mean, I moved into sort of this side of town, the bohemian side of town, around 80. And that's when I got to know a lot of people around, say, the little 5 Points area and
688 was happening back then.
Yes, it was. And the band that I was in at the time, we played at 688.
That's where I first saw you.
Ah.
And you played drums.
Yeah.
But it wasn't 688. It was maybe a play, or it was like a venue that I'm not sure.
Well, we played a lot of different, I mean, we played the hoi polloi, the upper crust. Right. Which was, we did a concert one time where we had Mayor Andrew Young and dignitaries in their black ties sitting in the front row. And then the next night, we're over at 688, which you remember, a sleazy rock club over on, was it Spring? 688 Spring?
I lived there.
Oh, Spring. You lived in 688.
I was there. They had a lot.
Oh, that was your cot they had in the back there, wasn't it?
Exactly.
You're on the way to the restroom, you passed this cot, and that was okay. That's where okay. Well, that's where we met.
Later on there, I did do a TV totem pole. It was a big sculpture made up of TVs, from larger to smaller. They had these it was a totem. Wings on the top. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I don't remember that. I think, I don't know, me and a buddy might have tried to steal that one night and got caught.
That was you. Okay.
That was us. So I just want to say, Flournoy, by the way, for those of you that don't know, he is a highly accomplished artist, and we are going to be looking at some of his work here tonight. This is kind of, I think, like a get acquainted, and I'm really looking forward to diving into some of his work here, because it covers a lot of territory. I got to say, you got your artwork. I mean, we have this right here. This is one of yours. And since it's already there, why don't we just comment? Look at all those eyeballs. I'm kind of a little nervous. I got to confess.
Be afraid, Randall.
I am.
Be very afraid. So, I'm a visual artist, among other things, and this is some of my personal work. This is acrylic painting on canvas. Thought I'd bring some of these in so you could kind of see the.
Yeah, we'll dive into those.
And,
we'll get a little more into your background, and then we'll start looking at some of your work. See if your work holds up to your autobiography and all of the things you
probably want.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's go back. I didn't know all this about your background. I mean, we've known each other for going on 40 years now, I think. I mean, literally, think about it. Jeez.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Anyways. So you did a lot of cover art for bands some of the bands I was big fans of. Allman Brothers. Listen, I'm a hardcore Allman Brothers fan. And I do have a story I got to tell at some point. It's sort of a mystical connection, I guess, with the Allman Brothers. But it's Allman Brothers, Lynyrd Skynyrd, right? Didn't you do posters?
I did wasn't a cover for Skinner, but
you did
other things.
There was some stuff. I've seen
posters.
Posters for promotional stuff for Skynyrd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, authors of one of the great rock anthems of all time. Would you agree? Freebird.
Freebird.
Come on, man.
I have a story about
Freebird.
Freebird.
Really?
I guess I can tell it.
Yeah, if you've got anybody, under 16, you probably should make them leave the room for this.
Lisa Marie, better leave the room.
Oh, is this your pre-Lisa Marie life story?
We can skip that story.
Okay, because I don't tell stories about my life prior to Julie, when Julie
It has nothing to do with that. It's about the band.
Oh, the Lynyrd Skynyrd. Yeah, okay, we'll go for it then.
They were playing the Omni. Remember the Omni?
Oh, yeah.
Height of their career, Freebird, place was packed. They were huge then.
Yeah.
The band was on stage. First song.
Was this before the plane wreck?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm backstage, and the band's up there playing, and they're waiting for Van Zandt to come up and sing.
Yeah.
So he's walking down the hallway, and he passes a roadie. They've probably known each other since childhood. I don't know what. There were some words exchanged, and in 2 seconds, they are fighting, fist fighting, rolling on the floor, slugging it out, and it was amazing.
Oh, you did?
There he is. They're fighting, and there's the band, the height of their career. And then they just broke it up, and he ran up and started singing.
Oh, okay.
So he was a professional.
Oh, good. Okay. And then well, yeah, I mean, that would be the professional thing to do. If you get in a fight with your roadie, you don't go for the knockout. You break it up, at some point you call it a draw and you get back to the task at hand, right? So Lynyrd Skynyrd, yeah. Who else were you?
I've probably done covers for every Southern band you can think of.
Wet Willie?
Wet Willie was my first cover.
Yeah, but
I saw Capricorn Records when they were happening. I was doing a lot of work. Capricorn, so a number of bands.
But you never did one for Charlie Daniels, did you?
I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, 4 or 5 for Charlie.
You did. I knew you did, actually.
You baited me.
Baited you. Let's see, who else would there have been? Who were the big when Southern rock was ruling?
Yeah, you had Marshall Tucker.
Yeah, Marshall Tucker, of course.
The Outlaws.
The Outlaws.
Charlie Daniels.
Yeah. I didn't see a lot of them in con. I did see the Allman Brothers twice.
Just twice.
Only twice. But when Dwayne was still with them. So that was, and one was in a small venue. The other one was in some kind of an outdoor fairgrounds or something.
So,
but boy, they were good. Oh man, they were a great jam band.
So the Allman Brothers, I did Eat a Peach.
Right.
And it was coming out before, it was slated to come out in 72.
Okay.
Yeah. But what happened is that Dwayne was in a fatal accident.
Right. Motorcycle.
And so they bumped it. So they put the recorded live Fillmore and they released that. And so that came out before Eat a Peach.
But right. And then Eat a Peach, I believe, was the next album. Because I think that was the last album for a while of Allman Brothers that I bought.
It was a double set too.
Yeah. And I was bothered by, and then Barry Oakley. A year later, almost on the same stretch of highway, meets the same fate, a motorcycle wreck. That was weird.
Yeah, the whole thing was weird. I was slated, I talked to Dwayne, I was slated to paint his motorcycle the next weekend.
Oh, wow.
We talked about that. He wanted me to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd already painted Greg's Leslie speakers. So I did these, they were stacked, and I did this kind of psychedelic stuff on them. But he checked out, the week before. It was really, it affected a lot of people.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as disturbed about that as when I was driving my pickup truck onto work one morning in December 1980. And was it December? Yeah, I believe it was. The radio, I turned the radio on, and they were talking about how John Lennon had just been shot. That was pretty shocking to me, because I was a huge Beatles fan, especially after Rubber Soul. Rubber Soul is where I really started going, hey, these guys got something going on here. And then that was confirmed with Revolver. And then, of course, what was their next one? Sgt. Pepper's, right? 67? I think so. By the time 67 came around, you had Sgt. Pepper's come out. You had the Doors' first album come out. You had Jimi Hendrix's album come out. You had the Jefferson Airplane. First Grateful Dead album. I mean, my God. Oh, first Mothers of Invention.
Right.
The list goes on.
I was more, I liked the San Francisco sound coming out in the 60s. Santana's first album. Oh my God.
I got to add Santana to my list.
I went to Woodstock, and I'd never heard of Santana. They came out, and my God.
Yeah.
It like.
The drummers, what was the drummers? He did that drum solo. That was killer drum solo.
Their whole set was next level.
Oh yeah, next level.
I read somewhere they were all on acid.
I think I read that too. Were you, by any chance, at that?
I don't really remember Woodstock, so I must have been there.
Someday. You must have been. Yeah, that was the peak. That was August of 69. Am I right? August of 69, yeah.
69.
Yeah.
Oh. It was quite a scene.
I'm sure it was. I managed to get a couple of rock festivals in, but not on the scale of Woodstock.
Well, that was kind of the epitome of the whole counterculture, because you get, at the time, they said it's over 1 million people. Just the peace, love vibe going on.
Yeah.
Everybody was so nice. Everyone got along. It was just chilled.
Yeah, it was a kind of a once in a...
Unlike... After that, you had Altamont.
Yeah.
The antithesis of Woodstock. So, but Woodstock was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet it was. Well, I went to, what was it called? Soundstorm, out in the middle of a Wisconsin farmer's field. They had it. The Grateful Dead were the headliners.
Really?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And it was the electric Kool-Aid. They had the electric Kool-Aid there. I think that was just before Owsley, perhaps. When did he...
No, he was like 65.
When did he get arrested?
Oh, I don't know.
I remember he got arrested, and that kind of derailed the whole, because I remember... Can we talk about this?
We had these other young chemists that took up the banner, though.
Oh, did we? Well, this is sort of like our coming out of the closet, right? So, of course, you never did any psychedelics, did you?
No.
No, I'm sure you didn't. So first thing I did was Purple Haze, the stuff the song was named after, the Jimi Hendrix, and that was supposedly was some of Owsley's best.
I did Purple Haze.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
So you went to, okay, that's interesting.
No, I was there at the beginning, so you had these, like, strong... Purple Haze was strong, then Blue Cheer. You had Purple Haze, Blue Cheer, Windowpane later, but...
Windowpane later, right.
Yellow, Orange Sunshine.
Yes, Orange Sunshine.
You had... But no, I didn't do any of that stuff.
I didn't think you did. I would... I mean, from looking at you, I would, automatically assume, no, he's never gone down that road ever.
But extraordinary times.
Oh, the guy, they really were extraordinary. And
I mean, you have that whole time period. An explosion took place. It just ripped the fabric of culture, and LSD was the bomb.
Yeah.
Changed everything.
Well, it was. I've always said that there was two huge factors that made the late 60s what it was. And that was psychedelics and the Vietnam War. Because the Vietnam War was huge on the psyche, I think, of our generation. I don't know, how did you not go? Did they try to draft you, or?
I was in college and I had a low number. They tried to draft me. I think I was 32, but
You were 32?
no, my number was 30.
Okay. So wait a second. I think that time wasn't the war long over.
But I had a track record. I was kind of when I went up, I didn't even have to take a physical, thank goodness. I went up before the draft board. I was an undesirable.
Yeah.
So I had a 4F, which was wonderful as far as I was concerned.
Well, yeah.
But a lot of people say, like my parents, "Oh my God, you'll never get a job." I said, well, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Well, for mine, it was sort of an intervention of Providence, because I got busted just not long before I went for my draft physical. So when I went in there to sit down at my draft physical, I was a pending felon. And I think that was the main thing that made me, I didn't get 4F, I got 1Y. So it meant that in times of national emergency, they wouldn't have even bothered with you. You're 4F now, and we don't care. National emergency, we don't need you. 1Y, I'd have been called up. But I think that was sort of defined as, an actual invasion. If the hordes of whoever, the Viet Cong or whoever it might be, came over in their boats, because they didn't have airplanes, so it would have had to have been boats. If they rowed over across the Pacific Ocean and invaded us, then I might have been called up.
Mine was a mental discharge. So, but the interesting story, because the war was no joke.
No, the war was no joke.
And if you weren't into the war and didn't want to go to the war, I had a number of people, I could tell you these stories, but from helping guys shoot off their toe to trying to, like a mock suicide, taking a whole bottle of aspirin, and they'd do anything to get out. But this one guy in art school, I was an art major, and he was this big guy, and he got drafted in the induction center. This was in Athens, UGA. And the induction center was in Atlanta. And he came to me and he said, "Man, I can't do this. I can't go." And I said, "Well, look, here's a little pill. Take this 45 minutes before you go in." So he took it and he went in, and he went crazy. He thought these were like fascists. He saw these fascists in uniforms trying to steal his soul and his mind, and he was like throwing people around, picking up chairs, trying to bust out the windows, and picking up he was a big guy, throwing desks around.
So then they said, "Yeah, this is just exactly what we want," right?
You would think so, but he was so far gone, they just said no. He got out. But I think that may have been some blue cheer.
Oh.
Or it could have been some.
Well, yeah, Blue Cheer. After the band Blue Cheer, who was like that one of the first, what would you call them, heavy metal?
They were kind of precursor to metal.
They were precursor to heavy metal, I think. I mean, they were a power trio. They were about the time that Cream came out. Well, Cream was a power trio. Hendrix was a power trio. Blue Cheer.
I'm going to pause for just a minute to talk about our partners over at Shippo, who may save you a significant amount of headache in your day-to-day business. We sell a variety of geometry tools and models, like our beautiful platonic solids here at Randall Carlson LLC. And when it comes to managing shipping, e-commerce, and returns, we've been using Shippo for over 4 years now, and we're very pleased with their service. Shippo's interface is intuitive, the primary order page is easy to navigate, and we have enjoyed stellar technical support. If Shippo can help you with your needs, please use the code below to partner with a great company while supporting our work here at Squaring the Circle. Thanks, and now back to the show.
It was so different because of music. I would add one more thing. You said the war, and
Well,
I would add music to that.
the music was like the glue
Changing
to
people.
me, the glue that, and which is completely, I think this generation, the younger generation now, has grown up pretty much with, corporatized pop music. And back then, no, the music was fundamental to the whole political movement, the whole historical thing that was happening at that time was being expressed through the music. And yeah, I mean, if you start, we should actually do a podcast sometime where we just break down some of like the lyrics of some of those songs that we were listening to when we were, literally middle school, high school, out of there that our generation was listening to. Because they were very topical. And I think if you tried to put songs out there now, they'd probably get censored. I mean, in mainstream media anyway, some of the kinds of things, remember the song Eve of Destruction?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Well, that certainly kind of reminds me of right now. Kind of like I could see reviving that song, tell me over and over and over again, my friend, that we're not on the eve of destruction with.
Right.
We're kind of seeing this loop come around because just when we were getting into our teen years was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Do you remember that?
I remember, but I'm a little older than you.
You're a little older. Yeah, you're a little older, but I was in fifth grade during the Cuban Missile Crisis. You would have been in middle school probably.
What year was it?
It was 60, October of 61. Or was it 62? I think it was 61. 61, yeah.
I hope we don't fall into some solipsistic darkness,
Well, I'm encouraged that there are things happening that are so awesome and really so positive that there's like this side of me that says, as grim as it might get in terms of, world moving towards Armageddon, if that was happening, why are all these other positive things happening parallel with it?
Because it's a world of contrast.
Yes, it's a world of contrast. And do you feel, I kind of feel this way or think this way, that a lot of seeds were planted back then in the 60s. And they're kind of ripened and they're bearing fruit now, or could be bearing fruit.
It's interesting that a lot of young people, I think the hip young people are still interested in that because they've read about it. Mm-hmm. They wanted to experience it. They would have loved to have been a child of the 60s, mm-hmm. been a freak, hippie, but so they identify with it. Mm-hmm. But it was a pretty amazing time because there was so much happening, like the catalyst we were talking about, acid, for instance, which the music came from. It changed the way you looked at music, changed the way you looked at art. It changed you developed a counterculture. It changed everything. It stopped the war. You started a lot of movements, the women's movement, the earth movement,
mm-hmm. The environmental.
Back to the earth movement, the environmental movements.
Well, now that you mentioned it, back to the earth, I've kind of noticed here was sort of the trend. You had, I think, the peak of the whole psychedelic for me was like between 66 and 69. Would you kind of think it was still accelerating 66. 67 was Summer of Love, San Francisco, Be-Ins, all of that. That was 67. And then 2 years later, it peaks at Woodstock and was pretty still going strong in the 70. But by 71 and 72, I think the whole zeitgeist had shifted. And you kind of see it recognized in the music. Look at the Beatles. You know, we see what you start out, you listen to their early stuff. It's pop music, you know, I Want to Hold Your Hand and Please, Please Me. And there's the early stuff. Then you follow the trend and then you listen to Sgt. Pepper's. And I mean, they said they just took the whole thing to the next level.
You know why?
Why? Well,
they did a little Elspeth.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, a lot of them did that, and that was kind of, it affected everything: music, art, culture, fashion, philosophy. You know, there was born on, I remember the human potential movement. Everybody kind of rediscovered Carl Jung and the work of the
early writers.
Yeah,
Doors of Perception.
Doors of Perception, absolutely.
Siddhartha was a big one.
Hermann Hesse. Yep.
It's good. Yeah, all the philosophers in the East, a big movement towards Eastern philosophy.
Well, yes, because I think, I mean, in my case, it was like, God, how do we explain this? I mean, for me, it was like going into the psychedelic realm was like discovering a portal into a completely another world, another universe. And I'm going, I didn't know this universe existed. And suddenly here's this door open and I'm visiting this other universe, and I'm going, what's the explanation here? What is this? So I think a lot of people turn to Eastern philosophy because Eastern philosophy seemed or appeared to have some deep insight into what we were experiencing. Would you agree? Because
for sure,
you got involved with transcendental meditation. You got involved with some of the yoga group, Yogi Bhajan, right?
Yeah, all that stuff came over in the 60s.
Yeah, it did. It did. And yeah, I mean, there was all across, I mean, me and my brothers, you know, we got involved with Swami Rama of the Himalayas and studied with him. I've got a great picture we'll share at some point where the three of us are standing out in the field up in the woods with Swami after a week-long retreat with him. But so yeah, people, I think, really began to ask questions about the nature of reality. And it was this that made this movement, the counterculture movement, I think, so dangerous to the establishment. Because the first thing you do when you start experiencing that is you start asking questions. You go, wait a second. Reality is not what I've been told that it is. It's something completely different.
So it's back to the catalyst, that ergot, you know, that fungus that was on plants.
And that
on rye plants.
Mm-hmm.
That's why psychedelics are still, I mean, there's a whole renaissance of psychedelics today. They change you. Mm-hmm. And they change you for the better.
They change you for the better, absolutely.
And back then they like wake you up. Mm-hmm. It's like you're sleeping, and it's like in our culture back then, going to these shows, these concerts, rock shows, or festivals where you had 100,000 like-minded people, and you get information, exchange information. That was kind of like a rite of passage.
Very much
for young people.
Very much so.
We weren't a tribal existence. That was the tribal existence. You know, that was our vision quest. And now, you know, for some people it was going to the mall or, you know, getting your driver's license. But yeah, so when you had all of that energy in one spot, you're creating these portals, and very powerful. I mean, acid was just so strong, so strong. And I haven't even seen any for decades now. The last one I did was maybe 1983, probably before Jesse was born. 1972, I think was the last time. Really? Well, yeah, because what happened was that sometime subsequent to Nixon being elected,
You know, when I first got involved in 68, you could get just the righteous stuff. It was, you know, a lot of Owsley stuff was still out there. Sandoz stuff, there was lines bringing Sandoz over. And I think it's what, you know, what you would call righteous stuff. And then sometime in 69, some weird shit started showing up. And I remember hearing, and I don't know if this is true, it was a rumor at the time. I don't remember even the source of it, but the word on the street was that after Nixon took office, you know, he started the drug war, and he was told by his underlings, whoever it was, his advisors, that, you know, that we're trying to portray acid as this really evil thing. Because somebody said, you know, all those anti-war protesters out there, they're all smoking pot and dropping LSD. So he says, well, we need to crack down on that then, because we can't really go after them for protesting the war, since protest is protected under our Bill of Rights. But what we can do is, since most of them imbibe in these things, we'll crack down on those things, and we'll be able to arrest a lot of them, harass a lot of them. Anyway, the rumor was that, you know, they wanted to portray it as this horrible thing, and all these people were getting bad trips and going into the hospital and going crazy and all that, but it wasn't really happening. So you hear this propaganda, and then things go quiet for a while, and then this really weird stuff starts showing up on the street, and people did start freaking out and going to hospitals on bad trips. So, you know, I don't know if it's true. I have no idea, but that was the rumor at the time, is that,
Yeah.
you know, and of course, what we now know about how they work, we don't put it past them at all that could have been what really went down. But
Exactly. Oh, we forgot sugar cubes and blotter.
Sugar cubes and blotter. Blotter.
Sugar cubes was early. You know, that was early.
Yeah, that was, blotters were towards the end. I remember one of the last things I ever did was a blotter, and that was, in fact, the thing that I did that finally made me think I was not doing it anymore, because I wasn't confident in what I was getting, was a blotter thing. And it was pretty bizarre.
Plus, back then, there were no governors, no restrictions.
Right.
I mean, you were doing like 500 to 1,000 mics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you weren't moving for 3 days, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I had experiences where my limbs turned into snakes. But overall, I usually didn't hallucinate. It was more of a state of mind that for me, that's mostly what it was. However, some mescaline trips that I did, wild with the colored hallucinations.
Yeah, mescaline.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you were an experimenter back then.
I was an experimenter. Yeah. I was like, hey, I'm here to find out I'm here to experience life.
I think we both have a lot of field experience out there.
Yeah, I would think so. You know, I managed to get 60 or 70 trips under my belt before I tapered off.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that, you know, did less than that, did more, but I figured that was about the number over a period of a couple of years.
I think I did enough acid to melt down a small truck.
Yeah, I can believe that, Flournoy. Yes, I can believe that. I would have kept doing it, except I didn't have the sources, and I didn't trust. You know, I knew where it was coming from in the early days.
So this is interesting. The early days, when you did it, it was a certain period of time that you didn't do it on your own. You had a guide.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like a mystical way of when someone approached you and said, hey, man, you want to do some acid? They had a responsibility. You would do it. They would guide you. And then when you turned someone else on, you would guide them.
You would guide them.
There was a protocol.
Yeah.
And it was really a nice thing. And as opposed to people that just did it and freaking out.
Yeah. And what could have evolved if the government had not gotten involved, and just left the thing organically. I mean, look, when first time I was 17 years old and I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And I mean, it completely, it left me speechless. This was 68, and it was still the point where there was a place in Minneapolis called the West Bank. And I think every major city, I mean, in Atlanta, it was the Strip, right? Were you around during the heyday of the Strip?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so, that was sort of like Atlanta's Haight-Ashbury, right? Or, and so in Minneapolis, it was the West Bank. That was this bohemian section where there was about a 3-block strip you could go, and it was almost like an open air market. You could walk down 2 blocks and get most anything you wanted. And that was you remember the term head shops?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They still have those. There was a head shop on the West Bank. It was called the Electric Fetus, and that's where I would go to buy my record albums.
Electric Fetus.
The Electric Fetus. Yes. You remember the Electric Fetus, Rowan? Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but that was a whole, right. You'd go to head shops, and head shops were cool.
Oh, yeah.
And people ran them were cool. And
were cool.
It wasn't like a business trying to make money. It was.
Yeah. I mean.
Trying to help the cause.
In my memory of it, I look back and I go, there's a sort of this stereotype, of the lazy hippie. But the people that I was hanging out with were far from lazy. I think that there was a real entrepreneurial spirit that was integral to that whole movement. Mm-hmm. And it infected all kinds of things. But it was like, wasn't entrepreneurial in the sense that, like, hey, let's go into the corporate world. I think there was a lot of us who were looking for things to do other than entering the corporate world. And for me, it was, we followed in our dad's footsteps and became carpenters. And I remember here in the Atlanta area, when Rowan and I first started our company in the early 80s here and went kind of official, there was 3 or 4 other competitors who were kind of like the same age as us, similar backgrounds. And for about 20 years, there was this group of 5 or 6 contracting firms that built custom houses and did custom renovations and things like that. And what we all had in common was we all came from that late 60s, I guess you could call it former hippies, who were looking for something meaningful and returned to the crafts, and where you do hands-on type of work, not going into the corporate world. And really all of our competitors back then, I could probably even think of 4 or 5 of them. We all very similar contexts. We came out of that background and then went into doing something that we felt was like, this is an honest way of making a living. Plus, if you're doing what you did, of course, is hands-on. What we did, I mean, you can look at our table here. See, this is the fruit of what we learned over the years, about craftsmanship.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, but then there's also, I think, a lot of maybe our age that kind of have participated, maybe only peripherally, but they kind of forgot.
I think a lot of people have
forgot what the vision was about.
Right. I was different, I was a good hippie. Like, I went to, after college, I hitched around Europe for a long time, and trying to go to India. Couldn't get in there because there was a cholera epidemic. They weren't letting people in at that time. But
Rowan there, he did go to India.
I went later on, but I couldn't go then.
What year did you find?
That was like the early 70s.
Well, that's when Rowan was there. Did you run into Rowan when you were there? He was there in 74.
I saw his name on a bathroom wall in there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And
you didn't know him at the time, though.
No,
you didn't know.
In Bar Nars, I saw it in there. It was like, but that's, what was I saying?
When you mentioned the word that...
Oh,
okay.
No. I was just going to say that No, no, you go ahead.
Well, you were hitching, and I was going to say, to me, if I like start thinking of the emblems of that time and the the images of that time, one that really is prominent in my mind is hitchhiking. I mean,
Hitchhiking is a good thing that
yeah,
doesn't exist anymore.
doesn't exist. Not like, I mean, it was literally to me like streams of energy crisscrossing. I mean, people were hitchhiking. You had probably millions of people out on the road hitchhiking.
If you wanted to go somewhere,
Yeah,
didn't have a car.
you just put your thumb out,
Mm-hmm.
and I hitchhiked thousands of miles. In fact, I delayed getting a car until I was almost 20 because it was so easy to get around. And, I made new friends. And, finally, I think what happened, though, there was a couple of incidents of maybe somebody picking up a hitchhiker and getting murdered.
Like serial killers kind of came on the scene.
Yeah, they kind of messed it all up.
And then they made it illegal. You had to only hitch from the entrance to the highway,
Yeah,
as opposed to being on the highway.
yeah, and then they did away with that, I think.
But I used to, one time I kind of mess around the Bahamas and those islands, and I would hitchhike, but I would go to the airports, stick out my thumb, and which would really, you just met someone had a little puddle jumper, because that's all they did. And they'd go to the next island, and I'd hitch a ride and say, "Hey, you going?" They'd say, "Cool, man." Yeah.
So you literally would try to hitch a ride, an airplane ride.
I hitched airplane rides all the time, going from island to island.
Well, you could do that.
You can. I don't think you can do it now.
Probably not. But yeah, that was, yeah, I mean, I hitchhiked literally thousands of miles.
And
People you'd see out on the highway, you'd see all these young people with backpacks
oh yeah,
coming and going. To me, it was like, I don't know, like an electric circuit, all the circuitry of all this energy moving on it, the people were like the electrons moving in this circuitry.
because it's funny, back then, certain way you looked, had long hair, you dressed a certain way, you're part of the tribe.
Right.
No one really questioned it too much. It's
Right.
like, "Oh, hey, brother, what's up? Yay."
Oh, yeah. Well,
So,
I remember standing out on the side of the highway, hadn't been there maybe an hour or two, hoping somebody would give me a ride. And then I see typically, maybe like a Volkswagen bus coming up the highway, and I could see the silhouettes in there, and I could see hair. And then I saw the hair, I knew I was about to get a ride.
it's like the Cheech and Chong movie back then.
Yeah.
But then, in Europe, for instance, I was hitching with my girlfriend at the time. She and I went, but we were in Pompeii, Italy,
Mm-hmm.
and we were trying to get over across the country, and people were not nice. We were asking, "What's the best way to?" They give you the opposite way, and we start walking through the town, and I swear the whole town came out, and they had switches, little old ladies and young kids, and they're throwing rocks at us and running up and hitting us with the switches.
What?
We're trying to walk through and it's like, and they're yelling and Italian, like, "Get out of here," I'd assume. But they were not nice. It was like,
Okay.
or you'd be stuck in Germany for 12 hours because no one would pick you up, because they didn't have freaks over there.
Oh, I see.
They didn't have long-haired people. even though
So you were a freak, and yeah.
They did in the 1700s, but
Yeah.
yeah, we were just an anomaly. They weren't.
Mm-hmm. That's wild. I never
Threat.
quite had that, but
So they saw you as a threat.
I had some encounters for sure, but nothing was the whole village came out and started throwing stuff and chasing me with switches. That never quite got to that degree.
Oh man, there was one. It was like went into the Eastern Bloc countries,
Mm-hmm.
and which then it was illegal
Oh,
for Americans to go in. So you had to like bribe. We were on a bus full of Turks because they would smuggle Turks from Istanbul up to through Germany up to Austria to work.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a ride of this kind of clandestine operation, but we were in Bulgaria or Romania, somewhere. And this is 1970, so we stopped. I had like long pigtails.
Mm.
And the bus stopped to take a break. So we walked around, it was out in the country, to look for we heard there was a spring over there. There wasn't, but we're two of us alone. And this flatbed truck pulls up on the road above us, full of soldiers. These guys are in gray uniforms with guns, and they all look like bulldogs or something to me. And they stop, they look at us. This one guy starts yelling out whatever he was saying. He said, "Guns up," because everyone in unison pulled up their gun, click, like ready, aim. And I'm like, because you hear these stories, they'll just waste you. And you're out in the country, or you'll get killed for your passport or something. I didn't really know what to do. And the only thing I could think of is I picked my pigtails up and I started dancing around like a marionette in a circle, going la 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 la, looking around. And they all started laughing, went, "Hey, he's crazy."
Oh.
And then they drove off.
Which was at least partially true.
That was touch and go for a second.
I can imagine. So yeah, nothing quite like that, but had a lot of run-ins with the police.
I would like to mention that one of our original sponsors at Cosmographia, CBD from the Gods, is following us here to our new podcast, Squaring the Circle. As many of you know, I've been using their products for going on 4 years now, and having tried a number of CBD brands, CBD from the Gods seems the most effective for my needs, which is primarily as a sleep aid and as a remedy for inflammation and associated pain. I use both the oil and the salve. My wife also likes their products, especially the salve, which alleviates the pain in her hands, which is the result of working for years as an electrician. If you've been thinking about trying a CBD product and experiencing the benefits for yourself, give CBD from the Gods a try. To learn more and see their product line, check out cbdfromthegods.com. Any purchase of their products helps our efforts here at Squaring the Circle to realize our goal of making this world a better place. Thanks.
Particularly after 69, 70, had a lot of run-ins with the police. Just they'd see you and, pull you over or stop you and search you. And well, that's how I got busted. I got busted by 2 plainclothes cops. It was late at night and I'd been selling newspapers all day, standing out there on the side of the sidewalk. And I had what you could do, you go in and you'd buy a bundle of 100 newspapers for 10 cents, for $10. So it was $10 each. I mean, yeah, for 10 cents each, I guess, for the newspaper. You'd go out there and you'd sell them for 25 cents. So you'd sell 100 newspapers, you'd make $15. So I think I had actually sold like 2 bundles that day, and I was feeling pretty pleased with myself, but I was really tired. Tried to hitchhike home or catch the bus, standing by the side of the road there. I can remember exactly where I was standing on the sidewalk near a bus stop, and then I see this car, kind of unmarked car, slowly cruising by, and these 2 guys looking. I knew immediately that they were plainclothes in an unmarked car, and so they drive down, they take a right, and okay, they're going to circle around and harass me. Sure enough, I'm kind of watching, 100 feet or so down to the corner where I knew they'd be coming around. I see the headlights coming up. It stops behind the corner. Headlights go off. The 2 of them come walking around the corner. They start walking towards me, and then they split up. One guy is talking to me and getting my attention and making eye contact with me, and his buddy goes behind me and reaches his hand into my coat pocket and comes out with a joint. like, hey, kid or boy, whatever he said, what's this? And the thing was, see, I didn't have a joint on me. And the reason I remember that so well is because I remember standing there thinking, God, I wish I had I had some, wish I had a joint. Well, I did. But so this guy comes up, they arrest me, put me in handcuffs, put me in the back of the car, take me down to put me in the drunk tank. Friday night, I had some adventures in the drunk tank. And in the morning, they moved me to into the city jail, which was this big old warehouse with 3 tiers of cells, right? And then from the top tier up to like the ceiling of the warehouse was probably another 30 feet. I mean, it was a big old building. They took me in there and walked me up to the 3rd level and all the way down, I think like the second to the last cell. Cop opens the door. I go in. There's another prisoner in there. He closes the door. As soon as he walks down, guy was in my cell with me. He was a little short guy, and he had this kind of gleam in his eye, and he goes, look what I have. And he reaches his hand down the front of his pants, comes out with a baggie, Acapulco Gold. And I'm like, what? Put that away, dude. Put that away. So I don't know how he got that in there, but then I find out, he's a pickpocket. That was his thing. He got busted for being a pickpocket. But somehow he smuggled this bag of dope in there. So we were in there all weekend. And so every hour, down, 3 tiers down, the guard would walk up to the end and he had this key and he would put it in the slot and he'd turn it. And I guess that was showing that he had made his rounds. And then he would walk away. And as he's walking away, you could hear sort of the echo of his footsteps disappearing in the distance. And then the guy would roll up a joint, we'd light it. And the ceiling of the cell was just open bars, which was really a big relief to me because I'm sort of claustrophobic. But being able to just look up for another 20 or 30 feet. But so, just take a hit, blow it out the top. So I spent the whole weekend in that jail stoned. But then when I got out, I got let out sometime Monday. On my own reconnaissance, and then they scheduled a court date. So I went to the court date. It was maybe a month or 2 later, and the cops that busted me weren't there, so the judge reschedules it for the next month. So I come back the next month. They don't show up. He schedules it for I think it was 3 times. The 3rd time I went, they still didn't show up. So he calls me back into his chambers, so it's me back there. My dad comes in at that time, and the judge says, well, you don't have any record, and if you behave yourself for a year, what I'm going to do is it'll go off your record, and I'm going to fine you $100. So I gladly gave him $100, and I didn't get in any trouble for the next year. So apparently it went off my record. But in that interim is when I got called up and had to go for my draft physical. And right there prominently on the forms you had to fill out, have you ever been arrested?
I put yes.
Yes, I have been. What for? And then, of course, they wanted to know, one of the other questions was, what drugs have you done?
All of them.
Well, I stayed away from the hard drugs. But yeah, so I was honest there about that. And then probably the third thing that was the coup de grace was they gave you these sheaf of papers, this many papers. And they asked, so it was these lists of these groups and organizations. And they wanted to know, had you ever been a member? But I went way beyond that. Have you ever been a member? Have you ever attended any of their meetings? Do you know anybody? And I looked at it and I thought, this is none of your business. So I took a pencil they gave me, and each page I just scribbled, took the next one, scribbled. And I can still remember when the presiding, probably sergeant or whoever he was looked at my papers. He was ready to beat me up, I think.
Get this freak out of here.
Get this freak out of here, yeah.
Hey, so I don't know if I can hang out with known felons.
Well, you missed the part where I said that if I behaved myself for a year, they'd clear my record.
I heard that.
And I did.
It didn't happen. You haven't never behaved yourself.
Well, I managed for a year. And I counted down the days, and when it got to 366th day, I went out and raised hell.
I tell you what, people don't, like in the 60s, you had big clusters like in San Francisco and college towns, but it wasn't pleasant. Like at UGA, I mean, there wasn't a day. You're walking on campus, you're getting rocks thrown at you. You're getting at least 10 times a day, queer, get a haircut. And it's just, so one quick story.
Okay.
We were going over to, it was like a group of, there were 5 people at UGA that had long hair. We all lived together. Anyway, we were going over, we had, that was like 67. And so we were going over to Atlanta to see music. I think it was Hendrix, because saw Hendrix when he was amazing.
Yeah, I bet.
The Hendrix back then. But Winder, Georgia, a little small town. We pull into a gas station, we need a gas. And this old codger, back then there was no self-serve,
Right.
Attendant came out, and this old codger came up, and he was really slow. He came, he looked in the window, he looked at us, went to the next window and looked at us, and we were like, group of freaks. And he's like, and, my friend says, fill it up. So he walks around, puts a handle in the tank, starts filling it up, comes back, starts looking at us again. Then he slowly walks to the front of the car. I mean, the guy looked like he was 100 years old. And he slowly climbs up on the hood of the car. And he starts trying to bust the front window out with his foot. He's hitting the windshield with his foot and then stomping on the hood. And we're like laughing at this old dude saying, what's he doing? What's this? And but he was relentless. He didn't stop. So we just said, let's get out of here. The heck with this guy. Boom, floor dead. He goes rolling off the car, and we're laughing. This is all really hysterical for us. As we're taking off, we hear a bam. We forgot that the hose was still in it, just jerked the hose.
I remember that. That made headline news all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that, and I said, look at those people to
You go ahead.
Go on, giving us all a bad name.
No. But people don't understand. Like back then, there was you had the man, and you had military industrial complex. Like my roommate helped burn down the ROTC building. So the FBI came to my place looking for me, and I was getting smuggled. I had a group of friends, and they said, "Come on, man, we got to get you to Canada. They got your roommate, and they're after you." I'm like, wait a minute, I was a student 2 minutes ago. Now we got to go flee to Canada, and I can't come back. No, we got it, man. It's all under control. You're on the Underground Railroad, man. It's all taken care of. But they didn't get me.
Well, things got very polarized for a while. But, if you go back and you look at the statistics, there was a major shift between 66 and 68. 66, majority of Americans were completely supportive of the Vietnam War effort and the buildup that Lyndon Johnson was doing. But by 68, it had begun to turn the other direction. And by 69, you now had a majority of Americans who were opposed to the war. And this is why Nixon ran on the platform of peace with honor. Of course, what he did is he drug out the peace for as long as he possibly could. But I mean, that was the strategy that they had to employ. He was going to run on the peace ticket because he knew that popular support was now turned against the war.
So let me
absolutely
check this. So he had to right, peace with honor. So being the creative visual person, I got this guy, and there was a streaking craze happening then on college campuses where people like to take their clothes off and run around. And
I'm not going to interrupt you, but I kind of look at that. Wasn't that streaking phase kind of, to me, like the last gasp of the 60s before, disco came in and
I don't know.
took everything down into the...
I streaked a little bit.
What?
But anyway, so I got this guy, and I did a photo session. I found the Nixon mask.
Mm-hmm.
So we put the Nixon mask on him, and I got some tapes, like reel tapes, and did a stage photo shoot. We had this guy, had his clothes off. He took the position like he was running, and we had the tapes streaming off the back, and the posters was Streak with Honor.
Oh, Streak with Honor.
And apparently, the National Lampoon was really big, a magazine back.
Oh, yeah.
And this company bought like 1,000 posters from me. And I never heard from them again. They paid me for 1,000. Then I would call up and say, "Hey, what's happening?" They go, "Oh man, it's not selling." But I would see ads for that poster in the back of every single Lampoon. And basically they ripped me off. It was one of the biggest sellers they'd ever had.
Oh.
And they just, Freak, we'll just pay him
Yeah.
$1,000. What's he gonna do?
So obviously your art is heavily influenced by the events of what was going down back in that time, born out of it. And I think those of us that lived that carry the imprint of those times with us still to this day. And there's so much more we could talk about, which I think is valuable, because I'll just mention that, when I was a kid growing up, I was very privileged to have known all four of my grandparents. And they like to talk and tell stories about their old days, right? And I really enjoyed hearing the stories from my grandfather and my grandmother and stuff from they were all born late 1800s, right around the turn of the century.
Mm-hmm.
You and I came around, we were kind of mid-century, right? You were a baby. Yeah, you were a baby, but from 46 to 64, we were baby boomers. So you were a baby boomer, am I right? You were not old enough to be pre-baby boomer. So you're baby boomer. So
No, I'm a solid boomer.
you're a solid boomer. Yeah, me too. But yeah, so we came along in a world where there were no computers, no cell phones,
Mm-mm.
no presence in space when we were born. We didn't have any. We had not. When did the Sputnik come along? 58, I think.
Yeah.
So we were already kids growing up when the Soviet Union made the first inroads into space. And I'm going to add this before we get into looking at some of your art here. I think that there's kind of this parallel, because when all of this stuff is happening, all this evolutionary stuff, and these tribes are coming together, people are exploring, shall we say, the inner domain, exploring the frontiers of consciousness. At the same time, we've got this very vigorous space program going on, Mercury, Gemini, Apollo. And so to me, I always look at this, those are almost like parallel tracks, almost reflections of each other, because on the one hand, we're going out into space. We got that first, that icon of the environmental movement is that photograph of the Earth rising, over the moon, whatever, like that. And I think in its own way, that really expanded human consciousness. And I know at the time, I was really disgusted with what America was doing and what was happening in Vietnam, but I was very proud of the fact that the going to the moon. And I was really into that, because I loved science fiction, and I really was into that. I wanted to see us. But then what happened was, well, we had to decommission the space program, basically, to pay for the Vietnam War.
And you found out the moon landing was fake. So,
well, I didn't find that out. I'm not convinced of that. But yeah, I think that we pretty much decommissioned the whole fleet of Saturn rocket ships that we had built. I remember going 20 years ago, going to see the rusted shell of a Saturn rocket sitting out in the field outside of the Huntsville Air and Space Museum in Alabama. And that was kind of their fate, you know. And now I find it very gratifying to see that the private sector is stepping up and revitalizing the whole movement. Because we won't get into that because there's a whole political side of that and why we're at war. It's to me because it's the last gasp of the old obsolete mindset, what I would call the Malthusian mindset, that, you know, it's going to come down to this grim competition for an ever diminishing resource base, and we've got whoever's going to be the top dog, you know. So we're in Ukraine right now. Why? Because there's like $12 trillion worth of resources in Ukraine. You know, there's 1.1 billion cubic meters of natural gas there. There's huge amounts of coal, manganese, titanium, strategic metals. There's shale oil, huge amounts of shale oil reserves, literally worth many trillions of dollars. That's why we're there. Make no mistake about it. That's why we're there. And to me, that's an expression of a mindset that really almost should have become obsolete in the 1960s. But it regrouped, came back, and the whole counterculture movement, this whole consciousness expansion movement kind of got marginalized, pushed off to the side, and, you know, propaganda took over again. By the time we get to the end of the Jimmy Carter years, we're now back in full-blown arms race mode, competition, international geopolitics has now again reared its ugly head. But some of us, and I feel like you might even be one of them, have tried to keep some sense of what the original and authentic spirit of the 60s was about, to keep the flame burning until such time that times were ripe again. And now with some of the things that are on the horizon, and particularly we won't talk about some of the new potential energy breakthroughs that are happening that most people don't know about yet, but also the fact that, like you said, psychedelics are making a revival, and we're seeing some incredible research post Terence McKenna, I would say, who helped to galvanize the next stage of psychedelic research. And that should be a conversation we pick up maybe in another session.
I'm working on a book that hopefully is coming out next this
Your
next
book,
year.
yeah, that's right. You're working on a book.
This is called it's a poster book, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Ceremony posters,
Yeah.
and posters that I've done over the year. I realized that I've been doing these posters for like 50 years, and back in the 60s, when it wasn't for a particular ceremony, but you just paid homage to the substance because it opened you up so much,
Mm-hmm.
and you enjoyed life so much.
Mm-hmm.
You just wanted to somehow get it down visually.
Yeah, get it down visually.
And, so there would be, plus you had events where gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
And people would get together and do acid and just have fun and listen to maybe a band, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be small gatherings. But they were important, and that was part of that whole cultural movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I covered that early stuff. Like I did revival posters for like the BN and California,
Mm-hmm.
the 50th anniversary of the Atlanta Pop Festival, which was a good festival. I did that poster, not the original one, the
Right.
remake. But I did Timothy Leary, who at the time, everyone knows who he is. I did a poster.
Hopefully.
He spoke at Emory. I did a poster for that,
What year was that?
1980.
Okay. Because I briefly met him. I think it was 74. He spoke at Georgia Tech.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because when was it? There was a Democratic convention was held here. 80 something.
For who was running? Do you remember? I mean,
I
was it?
guess it was a Democratic convention, but it was at Congress Hall or
I don't remember that. I mean, Jimmy Carter ran in '76
I'm not
against
whenever that convention
Gerald Ford.
was. They had a number of speakers, but Timothy Leary was speaking.
Oh, okay.
And I went and I had to go to the restroom, so I ducked in before the thing started. Leary comes in right next to me.
Uh-huh.
And hey, man. And we had a great conversation, brief,
Mhm.
but it was good. And he seemed like a real nice guy. And I mean, he's an icon of the times.
Oh, absolutely.
And so when he left, I had to look. I saw Technicolor swirls going down the urinal drain. So I guess he peed Technicolor.
Wow. I'm sure that's an absolutely true story.
I made that last part up.
I believe that, yes. So that's interesting, yes. And you remember, of course, Richard Alpert, also known as Baba Ram Das. And then there was, who was the third of the triad there out of Harvard?
Wild.
Was it Ralph Metzner? Ralph Metzner.
I met Metzner. I took a portrait of Metzner.
Were you there? Remember Scott Engel hosted Metzner at his house?
Right. No, I thought it was Bill Ligon.
So, no, it was that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was at Scott. Yeah,
Right,
that's where I met him.
That's where I took the picture.
Okay.
So I was going to interject here. In my book, I'm dedicating it to Terrence McKenna. I knew Terrence,
Uh-huh.
and he was a friend. And so I shot this picture of him in '97.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the shot. I showed it to his brother because I went out to the psychedelic conference that was in Oakland a few years ago. And his brother, Dennis, thought it was the best portrait he'd ever seen.
Oh, really?
But it'll be in the book. But go ahead.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing the book. And, if I can assist in any way, I think you've asked me if I would be willing to write a little promo blurb for it, and I absolutely would, and maybe try to get somebody like...
I want you to write a little knowledgeable kind of forward.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
It ties a lot of this stuff in because you were there.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to do that. I would. So did you ever contribute to like the underground comics at all? You remember Zap Comics?
Oh, yeah. I had like a 3-foot stack of them.
Yeah.
The ex threw them away when we got divorced, and I looked.
Those would be worth.
Oh my God! It was worth $100,000.
Oh my God! Yes,
man.
Well, yeah. I think about the record collection we left behind. When I left Minnesota.
I was going to show you this book I'm doing. You want to see some of these posters?
Yes, please. Let's look at some of those. Yes.
Should I just...
Yeah, you could. Let's see. Perhaps hold them up to that camera over there. This one here. Oh, to this one. Yeah.
Well, you see this growing? So this is... It's in the book, but this is like 1971. It's part of that whole inside of the Allman Brothers Eat a Peach. Very psychedelic. As a matter of fact, you written up, it was psychedelic cover to end all psychedelics. But I kind of started that whole mushroom. I did start the whole mushroom phenomenon when I did their logo. Lisa Marie, what are you saying? I took it off. These are just a few examples of these ceremony posters.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's incredible.
And they're some are paintings done exclusively for the event. So the events are dealing with different San Pedro mushrooms, ayahuasca, different substances.
Mm-hmm.
Here's, I'll just kind of go through a few.
Okay, I see. That's a serpent coming down, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I want to see it. Wow. So I could. Oh. Well, he's probably good enough there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see these okay? Just
Song and sound from the traditions of the Amazon.
tell me when to take it down. Is that enough?
Uh-huh. That was 2015.
2015. And these are different. This is like a colored pencil,
Uh-huh. And
tighter. This is a Shipibo print design.
look up here.
Yeah, you got one.
Yeah, I wonder.
Where'd you get that?
Well, when I was over at your house, I ripped it off. You didn't see me. I snuck it out.
But I have a lot of examples in the book.
So these are going to be like color plates in the book. Is that? Oh, that's going to be nice.
Maybe some stories, maybe some like
Sight, sound, and song.
Rowan. You have to turn this. Is this good?
Oh, wow.
Some of these.
That's, what is that, an owl? Whoa. Let me see this.
Whatever you.
It's whatever I want it to be.
Whatever you want it to be.
Let's see. Oh, I see. This is, oh my gosh.
See this one?
Yeah, so if somebody watching this video, all they have to do is pause if they want to.
Or they just have like names of the art?
Of the piece?
No, not necessarily.
Sight, sound, and song from the traditions of the Amazon.
But in the book, there are going to be other ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Like there could be plant ceremonies, like it could be sound healing ceremonies. Nobody told me I wasn't in front of the mic.
Oh, so,
This is a retreat that I host with someone that does breath work. Nanda does breath work, and Ashby does yoga. It's our 10th year up at a retreat center in North Georgia. Elohi. Now we're shifting gears. These are just, I just had these out here.
Chuck Lavelle and
These are
Randall Bramblett.
music posters
Yeah.
that I've done recently. Chuck Lavelle's, well, you know who he is. I'm just showing you some art here. There's his.
Don't know the Darren Nicholson.
Oh, he's a bluegrass kind of country guy. Really good.
Oh, okay.
But he likes possums.
Okay. To eat them or to have them
I
for
don't
pets?
know
Or
what he does with them. But I didn't know this when I did the poster.
Oh, really?
So I just came up with, they flipped out. Said, how did you know we're in the. Here's one for the Dogwood Invitational at Druid Hills Country Club. Ed Rollins, he had a Collective Soul.
Oh, this is recent.
These are those.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Now this is music stuff.
Yeah. The grand, but where was this grand ballroom?
Yeah, that's it. Here's Hoot Nanny. There was one coming up. I just did the poster for. I don't have the poster on me, but it's at the Variety Playhouse.
Okay, yeah.
Here's another one. Chuck Lavelle and Randall Bramlett, two exceptional musicians.
Yes, I'm sure.
And then here's another one back to the Amazon for some plant medicine. But that's just a few. There are a lot of examples in the book, hopefully.
And I will say that posters were an important, critically important part of how we communicated back then. How you let people know that things, what was happening, where it was happening, when it was happening. You know, we didn't have cell phone apps and things like that, so we had to rely on more primitive methods of communication. But yeah, I mean, you always had the head shops and the restaurants that were hip. They always had bulletin boards, right? And you could post things on those bulletin boards about what was happening and where, and that's how and then of course the underground newspapers that were big. I don't know if do those still exist, not that I know of.
I don't think so.
But every town had its own underground newspaper, and that was how you would get information that you wouldn't find in mainstream too much.
I try to carry on that tradition, posters.
Yeah.
Like nobody does ceremony posters. It's kind of a new genre I've created. Mostly if the ceremonies are for the participants to have a commemorative piece to take home.
I see.
Sometimes if they're like a sound healing event or some spiritual event, it's a little different, but I define ceremonies anything that alters consciousness, expands consciousness. The container can be anything, but
Randall can hire you.
Randall, yeah.
Or we do every time we do a tour, any participant gets a commemorative T-shirt with artwork on it that sort of represents some of the places that we go. So if we go to a particular awesome waterfall, Palouse Falls, our T-shirt will have some artwork on it of Palouse Falls. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm planning events, an Atlantis tour next year.
Really?
Yes.
Bringing it back up?
Yeah, we're gonna go down and we've got these rubber balloons that we're gonna blow up and raise the Azores microcontinent.
No, I'd love to work with you and do some of those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, some exciting things coming up.
I was going to give you that.
Oh, really? Julie, do we have a place for this? Julie says we have a place for
She's
it.
saying, no, get that out of my house.
Okay, show it again, Randall.
Okay, let's see if oh, of course. Let's see. How's that? There we go. Okay. Oh, so this camera here. Sweet. Okay.
Here's an example of a probably 67, 68 poster that's
one of your early ones.
Be in the book. That's
going to be in the book?
Yeah. There are a lot of earlier things that are kind of funny. But it exemplifies the times.
Yep.
So, yeah, when I started doing, you mentioned Wet Willie in my first album cover. And that was finger in the ear is a Wet Willie. Did you grow up with lick your finger and stick in someone's ear? It's called a Wet Willie.
No, I had much more
You had other things being stuck in your ear.
Well, I had a different idea of what wet willy meant. It was probably a little bit more obscene than putting your finger in your ear. I mean, I had no idea what where, but I imagined, and apparently now this is my misconceptions have been cleared up as a result of what you just told me. So I had no idea it had anything to do with putting your finger in your ear.
Well, it does. The album cover has a finger being stuck in the ear, and then the inside you see the inner ear, and it's all psychedelic and crazy stuff going on. But that came out in '71, and they had program directors at radio stations, and album covers were a big deal back then. I mean, it could it could make or break
a band. Yeah.
Just do you have a cool cover? You don't. If you don't, you can't be a cool band.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't get airplay.
Yeah.
But this was voted on. All these program directors in the country got together and voted on covers, and that one got runner up. So they got second place. So and then
out of
which kind of
how many? A lot, right? A lot of different.
A lot, but like when I was doing, I hit early. I was like thrown into the national limelight at an early age.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
you're as good as your next hit. And I was doing these album covers that it was interesting. These groups never had a gold record or anything. Marginal sales.
Yeah.
I do the cover, and they would go gold and platinum.
Oh,
Now,
totally. Yeah.
I'm sure it had nothing to do with the artwork, but the word got out that, hey, get Flournoy, man, and you'll have a gold record. So I was getting all kinds of calls from people. I mean, Stevie Wonder and James Brown and all kinds of people. But anyway.
Well, I hope that, we're like on this ascendant part of the curve again, and we're going to just see. Well, there's things we're going to talk about. We won't get the chance to talk about them in this session, but there are things coming down the pipeline that are going to, if they're not squashed, they're going to completely change the world.
We need a change.
Yeah.
I think change is coming.
I think it is. And
you want to see more of these things?
Absolutely.
Lisa Marie, can you come? This is your forte.
This is your moment. This is it.
We talked about this one, right?
It's just.
Did you tell what it's made of? Like how?
No, I did. That's just
acrylic.
These are all acrylic on canvas. Go ahead. You can go to the next one.
No.
Okay. Julie, would you come assist?
Or Megan.
We'll get the two good-looking ladies. Come up here. Now,
this is another painting, Snake River Goddess.
Okay.
It's kind of a takeoff on the old Indian artwork,
Yeah, of course. I immediately recognize that style.
She's crying. She has a little tear in her eye because she does not like the pollution. We polluted the Snake River. Anyway, you can go to the next.
Okay, what do we got here? Okay, we got a dragon right there.
Couple of dragons.
We got a hexagon here. She's got some ball lightning there in her palm of her hand. What do we got down here? Oh, another serpent with fangs. Oh my God.
That's her.
Herbs.
What are these? These orbs.
That's exactly what they are.
Oh, orbs. Okay.
Okay.
Wow, that's a good one. All right.
This way.
And this is basically a lotus with many eyes.
I see.
It looks good under 3D glasses.
Oh.
It looks very 3D. I didn't intend for that to happen, but.
So if everybody at home has 3D glasses, check it out. Put it on your biggest monitor and check it out, huh?
Go crazy.
Go crazy.
Okay. We can go to the next.
So when was this?
Is that it?
Yeah.
What year was this?
I-
This is a more recent one?
No, this like that kind of series. I got kind of pretty productive around 2012.
Oh, okay.
I really peaked when I was in the 4th grade, and it's been downhill ever
Downhill
since.
ever
But
since, yeah.
You couldn't get all of them at one time.
This is the interdimensional love beings. You you see the love being?
Being or bean?
Being.
Oh, okay. Not love beans.
Are you seeing beings?
See beings. I can see a being, yes.
It's a being.
Yeah.
Here's the love being. See her eyes, the mouth.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Took a moment. I'm looking kind of obliquely at it, but yeah, I can
But
see
then you
it.
start seeing faces everywhere because there's kind of a
It's one of those where the more you look at it, the more you see all the kind of little things hidden away there. Uh-huh.
But I'm working on
Yeah.
another book, my own like personal work,
Uh-huh.
and then one on like album cover stuff. But
Okay. And you're writing narrative for the book? I mean, you're writing,
some
yeah. I mean, every one of
I'm
these,
trying to get the poster book out first.
yeah. Because, I mean, I can see how every one of these paintings is a gateway into a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to listen to what people say about it. A
Oh,
lot of times he'll not necessarily direct and say, it's interesting to listen to what.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I love the canvas. I've not known people.
What do we got? One more under there? Yeah, there's one more, right?
No, we've seen that
Oh,
one.
we've seen that one. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
You know, I was at I had some other paintings up in the living room, and my friend, who's a psychiatrist, brought over some younger guys. They weren't that young, you know, like late 20s. And they go, "Oh, wow, this is really cool." And what program do you use? And I said, program. He said, yeah. What program do you use? You like Photoshop? And I go, no, this is a acrylic on canvas. They go, yeah. But what program do you use? I said, no, it's not a program.
It's paint and
I
brush.
dip the brush in paint and paint on a canvas. And they blew their minds. They went, what? People do that? At that point, I knew, God, dying art. I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've been doing this a long time. So,
Yeah.
but the album covers, it's not necessarily my personal work. Sometimes
right.
it'll shine through, but, you know, you're doing a kind of, it has a purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, and who are some of the, I recall some of the other well-known artists, Mouse and Kelly. Was it Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly and Mouse.
Did you know those guys?
Oh, yeah. I went out to see them.
Uh-huh. Do they still?
No, Kelly, he passed.
Oh,
And Mouse is, gosh, he's like up in his mid-80s, I think.
wow. Jeez,
But,
time is passing.
yeah, things change.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
do we have to wrap this up? I mean, I can talk for another couple hours.
Well,
We haven't covered UFOs. We haven't covered.
no, we haven't. But so
It's up to you, Randall.
what I'm going to suggest is that we just do this again soon. I mean, you're local. It's hopefully now you know where the studio's at. Maybe in January.
Sure.
And are you going to make progress on your book over the holidays and stuff?
It depends. I have a good friend he has a podcast, pretty popular podcast. If I can get him to write something so I can get my book out, then
Okay.
he's sitting across from me right now.
Well, listen. Let me put it this way: if you nag me it'll get done.
Okay.
And I won't, I'm fine with that. You know, it's the old squeaky wheel gets the grease. So squeak a little bit, and yeah,
Right.
just remind me, because God, I'm going to tell you, Flournoy, this last couple of years, it's kind of gone crazy from being, it's just weird. You know, I'm going out and, you know, complete strangers are coming up to me, man, hey, man, I saw you and whatever, you know, and it's happening all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess there goes my anonymity.
Yeah, I had a stalker once. Not fun.
Really?
It was serious.
That's a story you're going to have to tell.
I mean,
We'll stay.
I had to get the FBI in them.
Really? That does sound serious. I think I've heard little bits and pieces of that story. I didn't believe it, but
No, it was true. The dude shot a gun into my house.
what? Wasn't very polite.
No,
Jeez.
should have just knocked.
Who was this guy?
It was a number of years ago. He had like served some time in a mental institution,
Uh-huh.
which I didn't know, but
So why did he single you out of all people?
I'll have to tell that story later.
Okay. We'll save that story for another episode.
Involved.
It gets involved. Okay.
But I think it's really good. I think, and we probably just scratched the surface.
Oh my God.
Young people wanting to hear about the 60s and
Well, right.
70s.
So I think, you know, what some of them may, or a lot of them may be accessing is probably just like a bullshit narrative and they need to hear it from people who were there, saw it firsthand, experienced it. And I always kind of look at it in a way as kind of like the last great burst of freedom in America. And that's, to me, what the essence of it was all about. We were looking for, because we were already becoming this regimented society, very militaristic, very over heavy, you know, on the control systems. And of course, that's why books like Brave New World and Animal Farm and Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, those were really important books at that time. Because at the same time you're breaking out of this shell, you realize that you were living in a manufactured reality that had been contrived and spoon-fed to the population, and it was all based on propaganda.
well, people underestimate social conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
and they've had decades and decades to fine-tune it.
Oh,
So-
yes, since then, yes.
And it's so insidious. People aren't even aware that they're getting,
No, they're not.
they
And-
have not a clue. But if you're hip to it and you're aware of it, then you can
yeah,
avoid it,
you can avoid it. Right.
change things maybe.
Because it is, to me, a form of bondage. You know, and like you said, I mean, there's so many people that are now completely programmed. They're programmed into this reality, and it's really, it's something I think that needs to be fixed, because we're just seeing, I don't know, it's like the circle's coming back around, and we're seeing, from where I stand, but I don't want to be too harsh on this, you know, as we wrap up here, but there's a lot of young people that, you know, I'll just cite, for example, who think that we really are in the midst of a climate crisis. And, you know, I got interested in the climate in the 1970s, have been obsessively studying climate for decades. And so, you know, I come from a position that's a little unusual, and in that I know a pretty good deal. I mean, you know, I do these tours and we go out and, you know, I've covered literally maybe 200,000 miles in the field exploring the evidence for global change that are imprinted into the landscapes. That's what these tours are all about that I do. I take people out and I show, here's what this hidden story is in the landscape. And this is what it's telling us. Here's this language of the landscape. You learn these things to recognize the effects of great sweeping apocalyptic events. Like, one of the things that I do is I take people out and we explore landscapes that were created by gigantic floods, effects from the ice ages, effects of, great fires, of volcanic eruptions, all of these kinds of things. And so I've immersed myself in the study of Earth's catastrophic history. So I know what a real climate crisis is, and it's way beyond, orders of magnitude beyond anything that's going on right now. And I think that, we've got a lot of young people that are really scared and worried about our future because of a minuscule increase in carbon dioxide, and they're totally focused on that, while at the same time, we've got in the geopolitical realm, we're ramping up World War III, right? Now, that is a real crisis. I mean, if we go into a hot war that, nuclear weapons are involved, we're screwed. And, it's ironic that somebody, like Trump comes along and he says he's going to end the war. And I'm saying, okay, we need to hold you to that. I mean, we may not like you, or we may not like all the things you do. Maybe we like some of the things you do. But the number one thing that needs to happen now is we need to end these wars, just like we needed to end the wars back in the late 60s. And that's part of what this whole cycle has come back around to. We need a peace movement where people become aware that we're once again being manipulated with propaganda, and we're being spoon-fed this in order to advance the agendas of a small elite that have managed to hijack our political system. And a big part of what I think the 60s was about was getting back to the original roots of the American vision. A free people, self-reliant people, people who you relied on your neighbors, your communities, your families, et cetera, and not some centralized authoritarian state. But like you said, very subtly, they have been manipulating us back to this position now where, the authoritarian state is really showing itself for what it truly is. But by doing so, I'm hoping that enough people can look at it and realize that it's a huge sham, and that we've got to come together now more than ever as a world community and say, we're not going to go down that route. We're not going to go down the route of endless war, because it can only end in disaster, because there's other things on the horizon that could completely transform the industrial landscape of this planet. And this is something I'm going to be talking a lot about between now and the next couple of months in these podcasts. And I would very much enjoy it if maybe in January, early February, sometime you come back and we continue this conversation, because there is a lot more to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. I did want to say that when you mentioned language, it's the language of the landscape. When you study geology, it's like, and my life has been composed of art and music. I have a group also. I do music.
Yeah.
But this is like a certain language.
Yes, it is.
That you can try to absorb and learn from, or maybe you'll get something from it. Maybe it can change you. Maybe it doesn't. But it's hopefully working on a deeper level. But
I totally believe that.
Why can't people just get along?
When it comes down to, we should be able to just get along.
You would think so.
Well, part of what's going on now is the deliberate sowing of the seeds of division. That's a deliberate thing that's happening right now. Because if we're invested in believing all of these things and right versus left and Trump versus Biden, Harris, all of this, if you're a Biden supporter, you go crazy because Trump got elected. But, it's like it's been elevated to this point where in our original American system, our lives are not supposed to be influenced or affected to that degree by what the politicians are doing. And if we were being true to the original vision, what they're doing would have virtually no effect on our individual lives or our community lives or our family lives, our business lives.
Before it was like the news, when there was an election, Now in the news, it's the political agenda is constant.
Yeah,
It's just constant.
everywhere.
It's like you're just
Yeah.
inundated with this stuff. And before, okay, and the news would talk about it, but everyone has an agenda.
And they're using the political system in pursuit of that agenda.
Right.
And that's something to talk about because, yeah, I really think that, a lot of the things, the lessons of the 60s, a lot of it we preserved, but even more of it, I think, has kind of gotten shoved up, pushed under the rug, and bring some of that back out and say, this is what it was really about. It wasn't, and I'll just say this, for example, I went to, plenty of anti-war demonstrations and rallies and meetings and things. You go to planning meetings. And one of the things I noticed early on, even when I'm only 18, 19 years old, is that there seemed to be two different factions involved in some of these. One I called the hippies, and the other were the communists. The communists, there were many shades of those, whether they were socialists or Marxists or Maoists. A lot of people showing up with the little red book. You remember Mao's little red book? And that was all over the place. And I noticed that, to me, the main difference, as I began to detect, was you had one group who was there, and their primary aim and goal was to end the war. The other group was using the war because they wanted to be in control. And that became very clear to me as I listened to the rhetoric coming from that side of the political spectrum. And I didn't resonate at all with that. I went in a completely different direction. And I basically embraced free market entrepreneurial small capitalism. And you did too. I mean, you were an entrepreneur, you're an artist, but you're also an entrepreneur. Just as we were artists, we were craftsmen, but we were entrepreneurs. And I think, like I said, I think that a lot of the people that went through that, I mean, you think about how many businesses there were. I mean, there was a whole neighborhood in Minneapolis where a lot of the freaks moved into, and they began just transforming like 3 blocks of this street. And of course, you knew, because there was a lot of idiosyncratic stuff, they were reviving these old houses and stuff, and sometimes you'd maybe see a purple house or whatever. And so you knew you were like, in a neighborhood that was not mainstream, was not, right. Well, back then, remember, we used to use the term straight. That didn't imply your sexual orientation. You were a straight if you had not ever experienced the psychedelic.
Right.
Right. Somewhere along the line, that comment got hijacked. Exactly. So there's a lot more to talk about, and we could go on for another half an hour, but I suppose this is a good place to wrap it up here.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing this. And next time, let's talk about your music.
Yeah. We can talk about UFOs.
And we can talk about that. I had a very interesting conversation over the summer with somebody. If you look right behind you there, see the book. There's 2 books, The Shaman. No, they're on the right. And then look at the one underneath. That is... Bring that over here. So I read this book a couple of weeks ago. Lou Elizondo. Very interesting. Right. Now, I had never heard of him. And then I made a remark on Joe Rogan. Somebody asked me about my take on UFOs. And in a nutshell, I said, well, there's people believe this, they believe that. But then I think there's another possible explanation that people haven't thought of. And I left it at that. And a short while later, Lou calls me. We had a very interesting conversation. So at some point, I think I'm going to try to get him to come on the podcast and talk. I've read the whole book now, and his take is very interesting and and it's very believable.
The only thing I want to say is that 1964. Maybe 1963, my mother picked me up after school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, going home. And we both saw it's kind of football shape metallic,
See, that's,
tree level.
Yep.
I'm talking about really low, barely moving. And I said, you see what I'm seeing? And she goes, yeah. What is that? And I'm like, before we could even answer that, it turned and there were two of them. We couldn't see the second one. It was behind the first one. They tilted up and then gone.
Yeah.
So, and there were a number of sightings back in 63, 64. It was not of this world that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so.
So you want to have that conversation?
Well, no,
Talk about them?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
I haven't seen anything like that, but I have some ideas now that I've kind of deliberately avoided getting into that rabbit hole. But I feel like now it's, especially after reading Lou's book and talking to him, and I got what's his name? Oh, that reached out to me as well. He also testified before Congress. Who was the other guy that? God, I should remember his name. Anyways, it's not that important right now. Yeah, we could certainly get into all of that. That'd be fun to get into that. And
Fun.
also, there's, again, we barely scratched the surface. And one of our goals, I think, is to try to inspire some young people to go back and learn about, just the same way, I went back and tried to learn about the Depression and World War II and World War I and understand the world, the history of the world when our parents and grandparents were coming up. We need to keep those traditions alive, because you know what the fascists and the communists and the authoritarians do is they try to separate people from their history. That's what they try to do.
And if you live through a certain history and you know kind of the reality of that history, and then later you hear that history is being colored and changed.
Yes.
And that, because they have a platform or they speak from a voice of authority.
Yeah.
But it's totally incorrect.
Totally incorrect.
You're like, what's going on
That's
here?
not what happened.
That's not what happened at all.
Right. I was there. Well, that's not what happened.
So got that to contend with.
Yeah. Well, let's reconvene and
thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's been fun. So let's look at maybe into January or something.
And I just hope our conversation hasn't alienated your entire viewing public.
I don't think they were warned in episode 1 that we would be talking about things like this. And and I would definitely like to dive into what's happening in the psychedelic frontier right now, because there's some really interesting stuff going on.
I don't know. I never even leave my house.
Okay. Well, do a little research. All right. Well,
Okay.
thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.